How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? I wanted to record a video to clarify some things with regard to papers. So I think for the most part with everything else, y'all seem to have the hang of it. Um, at first I think there was a little confusion when it came to the activities because there are two due dates. On Thursdays the initial response is due, and then by Sunday, the date that it actually shows, is when you need to have a response to somebody else's reply in the discussion board. But like I said, I think that part has been pretty well cleared up. If anybody does have any questions about that still, please let me know. But I think the main thing that caused us some trouble with the previous paper, the one that you are finishing probably as I speak, is some of how the process works. Um, there, we had some. I had some technical difficulties, and there was some confusion and stuff like that. So things didn't go quite as smoothly as I hoped they would go for that first paper. But hopefully, moving forward, things will go a little bit more smoothly, and hopefully, this video helps. So as you started to see last week, your next paper is an academic essay searching for the truth about minimum wage. And what happens if we click on that is we'll just do a shortcut and jump to where I already have it open. You'll have your prompt here, and specifically the essay assignment that you're working on is starting right here in this area where hopefully you see the cursor moving around. Um, Now, the thing that messed us up with the first paper, I think, was first of all, there are multiple drafts that are turned in. In fact, I take that back. One of the things that messed us up was the fact that you see the due date here says October 31st, which I did change, by the way. I moved it forward a little bit just to make sure we had enough time for me to record this video and to clarify anything before fully moving forward with this paper, because I do want you all to succeed. I don't want things to be confusing for you. So part of the problem is that on Canvas, it only shows the due date of the final paper. Obviously, that's a problem because, it doesn't tell you the due dates of the various drafts that are due before then. Unfortunately, I don't have a way of changing that. So that's one of the reasons why I've started including this week info section as hopefully a reminder that there are things coming up that are not necessarily reflected in the date. And again, that usually should, as far as I know, that only affects the papers and, like we talked about, to a certain extent, the activities, although that's pretty straightforward every week. Thursday is the initial response. Sunday, you need to have responded to somebody else. So, um, again, hopefully that part's clear. But as far as the papers go, we need to kind of ignore that due date. That's the final due date. Again, this one says October 31st. That's when the final draft will be due. But if we look at, um, well, it's not going to show on this screen necessarily, but if I click on this, I can show you. There are actually multiple drafts. So the first draft, and I put draft in quotations there, um, is due October 17th. That first draft, as it says here uh, in the instructions, this is actually the outline for your paper. So this is when you need to turn in an outline by October 17th for this particular paper. The outline, like I mentioned way back at the beginning of the semester, is a skeleton version of your paper. It's not a draft of any kind. And if we pop back to Canvas real quick, I do have and helpful materials, I have a document as well as a document that's an example of a proper outline, as well as a video of me explaining how to properly do outlines. And then I also have the video for body, paragraph, structure, and progression, and the outline to draft video that will help you go from the outline stage to the draft stage when it's time. But if you have not already, make sure you, at the very least, check out the outlining video so that you can see my explanation of how to properly do an outline and why I'm asking you to do it that way, etc. Let's jump back to the essay. So, like I said, that first draft is uh, your your outline. You will then have a complete. This time, we're taking the process a little bit further than we did with the first paper. The first paper, you just had the outline and the final draft. This time, there's actually going to be a second draft, which is, I hesitate to call it a rough draft because that suggests that the draft, at least in students' minds, a lot of the times it suggests that the draft doesn't need to be completed. I do want this to be a complete draft. I do want it to be the entire paper is completed, not necessarily one that you've spent a lot of time revising and polishing, but completed for sure. That'll be due the following Sunday, October 24th. And then you'll notice here it says peer review. So that second draft is actually going to be peer reviewed by some members. I've put you into groups. So you'll have an opportunity to peer review at least one, but as many as you have time for. Peer review each other's um, completed draft, and then you all will be able to use some of that feedback. Um, I guess it depends on how good the feedback is or how much you agree with the feedback, but you can use some of that feedback to polish your paper um, and get it the final draft in due by October 31st, which is the Sunday after the first draft is due. This When I say first draft, I mean the first completed draft, which is draft number 2. The peer review I have set to be completed a few days after you turn in that first completed draft. Um, if anybody in your group, if anybody in your group turns it in early, of course you can get a head start. But that gives you a few days to peer review each other's drafts, which then gives you a few more days to do any polishing that needs to be done to your own draft, so that it's ready for the final draft turn in here. So I think the big thing that I wanted to get across here is that this is a progression. This is a process. So you've seen it already. Normally there is, let's see if it'll do that again. No, it's not doing it. But over in the top right hand corner of this draft 1 box, right underneath like where the trash can and the arrow are, you'll see a submit draft 1 button. That's where you're going to that's where you're going to post your outline for the paper, and that'll be due the 17th of October. Then, once that's done and I'm able to comment on your outline, which, by the way, will happen much faster now that the technical difficulties and the confusion are out of the way. Um, Once that's done, then you'll have an opportunity to turn in your second draft. So I'll comment on your outlines. You'll use those comments, either me saying, cool, go with it, your outline looks good, or here's where you might want to make some changes. Whatever the case might be, you'll write your draft based on that, and that will be submitted in a similar fashion with a box in the same spot here that says submit draft 2. Once those are submitted, your group members will have an opportunity to peer review those. Um, and of course, that needs to be done a few days later. And then when you're done polishing your draft and you're ready to turn in the final draft, you'll have yet another box here in this final paper section, similar to the other two buttons, that says post your final draft. I believe I've mentioned this before, but when you're doing the work on your papers, I always suggest doing that work in a word processor, Microsoft Word or Google Docs or something like that, and then copying and pasting it in to the text box for these. It's not a great idea to write your paper in the text box that you get when you click on that button for any of the drafts. Macmillan does a decent job of saving your work as you go, but you never want to rely on that. If anything happens to your web page, there's a chance you're going to lose some, if not all, of the work that you've done, so you want to definitely avoid that if you can. So again, your prompt is up here, and you want to pay, obviously, special attention to the actual essay assignment, what it's asking you to do. If anybody has any questions about that, of course, you can ask me. And again, we're treating this like a process, so there are multiple due dates. Show that again. October 17th for the outline, October 24th for your first completed draft, which is labeled Draft 2. Your peer review of each other's first drafts will be due October 27th, and then the final draft will be due October 31st. I wish I could change the title of Draft 1 and make it say Outline instead, because I feel like that would probably eliminate some of the confusion. However, unfortunately, Macmillan does not allow me to change that, so it stays as Draft 1. But Draft 1 is always going to be an outline in this class. So hopefully the fact that that's not going to change at all will help that be a little bit less confusing. So when you see Draft 1, just automatically think outline. And again, please check out, at the very least, this outlining video to, if you haven't already, to get a discussion of how that should look. And you can always come back to the outline document here to get a document version of how an outline is supposed to look. So hopefully that clears up any confusion. And like I said, things didn't go super smoothly with this first paper. And by the way, I am aware, obviously, that things didn't go smoothly, and I will factor that into my evaluation of your paper. By that I mean, obviously, my expectations are not the same as they would be if things went totally smoothly the way they were supposed to go. So don't stress too much about that part. I do recognize that things didn't go great with the first paper. And yeah, so hopefully things go a lot smoother this time. And as always, please feel free to ask me any questions that you have. You have my office hours, and you have my email, obviously, and you can contact me through Canvas. Sometimes, by the way, if you feel like I haven't responded to an email of yours before, a lot of times I will, if I get multiple emails dealing with the same type of issue, I'll usually just address that in an announcement or something along those lines. So I do see the emails. It's possible from time to time they might slip through the cracks. So please feel free to, if you haven't heard from me in a reasonable amount of time, feel free to kind of re-ask your question or re-forward the email. Especially since COVID hit, I've been getting a lot of emails every day. So sometimes it's possible that somehow they slip through the cracks. But I do my best to to make sure I catch all of them. There was one other thing I was thinking that I wanted to address that just came to my, the office hours and Zoom appointment times. I just wanted to let y'all know, the Friday time frame I'm going to have to remove, because I have a new responsibility that popped up that is going to make that a time that I'm not going to be able to do Zoom sessions. So I apologize for those of you for whom that is a convenient time, but I will still have Monday through Wednesday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And again, my on-campus office hours are all staying, and you can still contact me the normal ways. So anyway, that's enough for this video. Again, I hope I clarified some things, and I look forward to a much smoother rest of the semester, at least I hope. I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye-bye.